Hi, I'm Carl, the Landscape Guy. Today with a repair video for an easy Sun Parasol. The manufacturer is Sun Garden. These high quality parasols can easily be opened and closed with a crank. However, this parasol no longer opens and I'm assuming that the rope is ripped off. As you can see, you can still turn the crank but nothing happens. These parasol umbrellas are known for quite good quality, but after about 10 years of use, the rope of course can rip at some point. In here the nylon rope gets rolled up and runs on the inside of this round metal tube. From the inside of the parasol the rope normally lifts it up, but as you can see the rope ripped here. The rope usually runs through this hole up to the crank. First I open the crankcase so that I can take out the old rope. Using a screwdriver I take out the 3 phillips screws. Next to remove is the crank handle, which for a hexagon socket is needed to get out the set screw. Then the crank handle can be pulled out. Now the cover of the crankcase can be removed carefully with a screwdriver. Next, I lay down the parasol that I can more easily reach the joint at the top. The joint part is riveted to the pipe. That's why I'll take apart the joint itself to put in a new rope. For that, I first want to take out the screw up here because the rope will run through this joint later. I'm loosening the screws first on this side and then on the other side. Now I'm loosening up the cover with a zipper and pull it down a little bit. As you can see now, these retaining screws are revealing that are to be taken out with a screwdriver. Don't forget the little locking screw, which is located in the middle tube. Now the parasol itself can be separated from the carrier arm. Watch out, the screws are difficult to remove and can fall into the component. You can now pull this pipe off of the joint. Here you can see the hole for the rope. Now you can carefully separate the top shell with a screwdriver. On the inside of the joint, you can find this bearing bolt for the pulley that usually holds the rope. Now I go back to the bottom crankcase and take out the bolt here. Then the roll with the old rope on it can be removed and pulled out of the tube. I'm taking off the old rope from the roll. The rest of the ripped rope is still sitting in the inside of the umbrella. I'm taking that out by removing this plastic cover and then just pull out the rope. Using a tape measure, I determine the right total length of both pieces of rope. Overall, it's about 4.25 meters in length, which is 13.94 feet, and 5 millimeters in diameter. I got a new rope that is a little longer, which makes it easier to run it through all the parts and tie it with knots at the end. The new rope also is a little bigger. It's about 1/4 inch thick in diameter, which is the absolute maximum for this parasol to fit at the holes. I start here at the top and push it through all the way down to the crankcase. It can help to raise up the carrier arm so that the rope is hanging in the inside of the tube. Now the rope is pulled through and hanging out of both sides. I start to put the joint back together now. For this, I put the pulley around the new nylon rope and then put the brass bolt in from the bottom. I'm making sure that the rope is placed right into all these notches here, and then place the upper part back on. Now the 2 screws can be put back in already. They are screwed into the bolt, which can rotate. That's why it's advisable to put in both screws at the same time, as they tighten each other up. Now the sleeve can be placed back on. Inside the metal tube, which has to be placed next, there's a plastic part through which the rope must be slided first. Putting this part back into the pipe is somewhat complicated since it has to fit exactly into the notches here. After that, I'm sliding the tube back on. I'm reattaching the umbrella to the carry arm. When the holes match, you can put the 4 screws back in. Now you can just run the rope on the inside of the umbrella all the way down to the bottom. And attach it by making a knot. From here, the rope pulls on the parasol later and opens it up, so make sure the knot is nice and tight. Now the cover can be put back on. For an easier reassembly of the crank roll, I put the parasol back into its stand. The other end of the rope must now be knotted to the roll. I'm bringing it to the right length so that the roll still fits nicely into the housing. If the rope is too long, the space inside the housing won't be big enough and you will have trouble turning the crank later. Another common problem on these parasols is that the little eyelet breaks off of the roll, which is supposed to hold the rope. Then usually replacing the roll or attaching the end of the rope differently will solve this problem. On the internet you can find all kinds of spare parts for this parasol model. I'm cutting off the excess rope and melt the end a little bit. Then the roller can be reinstalled into the housing and the cap can be screwed on. From now on, the parasol can be opened with a crank again. Only thing left to do is putting the small locking screw back into place. I hope this video helped you. On my channel you'll find interesting videos about pond and waterfall constructions and other landscaping stuff. Thank you very much for joining us today. See you next time. I'm Carl the Landscape Guy.